How I fixed a broken relationship, the phone call. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, what am I talking about today? You know, I was watching one of my home videos, which I did put up. I think it's called Return to Hillbilly Holler, Appalachia, 1980 or 1980s or something like that. It's a recent one, so you can go back and look at it. And the phone rang. The old rotary dial phone at Grandma's house rang. And it was someone in my life, a relative, that, well, we hadn't talked in a while. And there had been what we call a falling out. You know what a falling out is when you're not talking to each other for one reason or another. And long story short, what had happened was that my mama and her sister had a little bit of a spat. When I say a spat, there was a little bit of a disagreement. My grandma had been visiting California, and my grandma got sick, and she had to go to the hospital, and I can't even remember. It was kind of like just a lot of emotions going on. And so the spat between my mama and my aunt was very temporary, and they healed that pretty quickly. But I had left California at that point, married my husband. So I never got back there for a while. And so there was no healing that had taken place yet. And so I was young. You got to remember, I was young back then, really, really young. And I loved my aunt, and my aunt loved me. So fast forward about 2 years, maybe a year or 2 years, because I had married my husband. And I was visiting Appalachia from where my husband and I were living in the South at the time. I was no longer living in California. Well, my aunt happened to call my grandma on the old rotary dial. And my mama answered, and they were talking. And my mama said, Diane is here, and she's getting ready to leave back for her husband. And there was a silence on the phone for a moment. And my aunt said, "Let me speak to her, please." And I thought, oh my goodness. So I picked up the old rotary dial phone receiver, and we began talking. And you can hear it in the video how I'm kind of crying a little bit, because it was an emotional time. My aunt and I both loved each other. And the disagreement really came because I was standing up for my mama, whether she was right or whether she was wrong or whether she was neither, And because I love my mama, and I didn't want to see my mama's feelings hurt, but it was a very emotional time. I don't think anybody in that situation was right or wrong. I think it was just one of those highly emotional charged situations when my grandma had taken sick when she was out in California. And probably some little tiny itty bitty disagreement that was blown out of proportion because, well, that's what happens when emotions are flying high. And so we have to be careful when emotions are flying high that we don't say things that we shouldn't. Well, I probably said something I shouldn't, and I think my aunt pointed her finger at me and said something she shouldn't have said. And so we didn't talk. We didn't talk for about 2 years. Well, healing needed to take place. It really did. And I knew I wanted to talk to my aunt because I loved her, and I knew she loved me. And so when she called, I just happened to be there. And so she was brave enough, courageous enough to say, "Can I talk to Diane?" Because that's what she called me. And so I was brave enough and humble enough to pick up the phone, the receiver, and talk with her. And we told each other how much we loved each other. Okay? So, families do have disputes. They have disagreements. Friends do. Co-workers do. Everybody does at some point in time if you live long enough. But the thing about it is this, is that if you don't fix it, it's not going to get better. Somebody's got to take that initiative. In that situation, my aunt took the initiative, and I was receptive to it. Other times in my life, I have taken the initiative. I've been the one who picked up the phone and called somebody. Sometimes they were receptive, sometimes they weren't, but most of the time they were. And, you're going to live long enough. You are going to have relationships that are going to have some kind of disagreement, spat, falling out, not talking. if you love that person, pick up that phone at some point. Maybe not right away. Maybe things have to heal. Maybe things have to digest. But at some point, pick up that phone. The worst that happens, they hang up on you. Okay? I don't want to talk to you. At least you know you've done your part. And then you're good because you've done the part. And isn't even necessary to talk about what the issue was most of the time. Most of the issue is over stupid stuff anyhow, like it was in ours. And not that my grandma, because my grandma was sick, but what transpired during that time was probably all stupid stuff. And it wasn't even mine. It was between my mama and her. And, but I was there for my mama. And so I think people, you have to apologize. Apologies are just part of having long-term relationships. It doesn't matter who's right, who's wrong. Pick up that phone. You know what I'm saying? And so I did. I picked up that phone. And I'm that receiver. And I'm so glad I did. And of course, if you go back on that video, that's like 40 years ago or something like that, And so that's what happens, whether it's your family, whether it's your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your grandma, your mama, your daddy. You got to bring healing. It doesn't matter who's wrong, who's right. It doesn't matter whether you fix the problem or not. You're letting them know you love them anyhow. Even with the problem, even with all the problem, you're letting them know that you love them. Okay, that's the most important thing. It's not about who was right, who was wrong, and how to fix the problem. It's about letting them know that you love them. That you love them. Now, are there times that we shouldn't fix a problem, that we shouldn't fix a relationship? There can be. There are some situations that are broken on purpose and they should stay broken, especially when they're relationships that are not meant to be, or very, very toxic or unhealthy relationships. Sometimes they break for a reason, and sometimes we need to leave those relationships broken because otherwise we get back into that toxicity. Doesn't mean you hold on to anger or hostility. You wish them well, you send love their way, you let them know you love them, but you can't be around them for whatever reason. Okay, those relationships are different than what I'm talking about. Okay, so if you have a broken relationship, I think it's important to consider trying to heal that relationship, maybe by even picking up the phone to call them. Okay, from my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe, and tell all your friends and family about my channel. Okay, hope to talk to y'all soon again. Bye-bye.